Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be taking a look at the best of the best when it comes to compact red dots from Aimpoint. A lot of people are going to think that's the Aimpoint T2, when in fact, it's actually the Aimpoint Comp M5. That's what we're going to be taking a look at today, so stay tuned. Okay, so here's a closer look at the Aimpoint Comp M5. Now, this Comp M5 is currently sitting on a KDG mount, but originally what it came with was a standard low-profile mount. So I'm going to have a review on this KDG mount separately, but I got to tell you, this is one of the coolest mounts that I have ever used. They're very nice, they work really well, they're fast, quick on, quick off, so they're really cool mounts. So I'll give you guys a review of that separately. Today we're just going to focus on the Aimpoint Comp M5. Now, the Aimpoint Comp M5 was actually developed by Aimpoint for a specific customer or client who wanted a different battery. So basically, an Aimpoint T2 will use a standard CR2032 battery that'll be located on a dial on the side. One of the problems with that type of battery is that it's a lithium-ion battery, and you might end up having restrictions on travel through flight, commercial flight, private flights, and you might also have trouble sourcing them overseas. So they wanted something that used a standard AAA. Now, the cool thing about using a standard AAA in this is that you don't lose anything in terms of battery life. So with a typical Aimpoint T2, you get about 50,000 hours of battery life out of that CR2032. With this, you also get 50,000 hours of battery life using a standard AAA, which is easy to find, they're very inexpensive, they're easy to swap out, and so forth. So obviously the battery compartment and the type of battery it uses is going to be the most noticeable difference between the T2 and the Comp M5. That's what everybody notices first. Now, try and keep in mind here, I'm not trying to say that the Aimpoint T2 is a bad optic. It's not. It's one of the best red dots in the entire world. If you were to spend your money on an Aimpoint T2, you spent your money wisely. If you're somebody who's already got a T2, you'll be able to attest to the fact that they are incredible little red dots. And again, like I was saying, they're some of the best in the world. The Comp M5 just takes it a step further. One of the things I was actually surprised to find out is that the Comp M5 is Aimpoint's first compact red dot that is made entirely of 7075 aluminum. So 7075 is a much stronger material than a standard 6061 aluminum, which means that this thing is going to be a lot more impact resistant, it's going to be a lot tougher, it's got a much stronger body to it. Now, on top of the battery style being different, so it's using a standard AAA, the other nice thing about this one is, and one of the things that makes it a little bit tougher as well, is that the battery compartment on this one is actually part of the body of the optic. So you know, on an Aimpoint T1, T2, they have that rotary dial that contains the battery and also the electronics for the optic itself. Well, that rotary dial obviously spins, so it's not going to be as tough as something that is basically made as part of the body right there. So it's going to be a much tougher connection in the battery housing to the optic itself. Now, this does have built up material on the side right here, and as you can see down here at the bottom, to help protect these turrets. These are cap turrets, but one of the things they do not have is a tether, and they are very small caps. So if you are somebody who's prone to losing turret caps, you might want to try and keep that in mind, because if you lose these, Aimpoint, and I don't know why they do that, but Aimpoint has these two little nubs that stick out of the top of their caps, and that's what you would use to make your adjustments. And so when you take these caps off, you can't use a coin, you can't use the head of a case or something like that in order to make your adjustments. You have to have this cap or the tool that comes with it. If you guys own Aimpoints, you'll know. You get this little tool right here. It's got the hex head, or excuse me, it's got the Torx head right there, so you can go ahead and take out these screws for your mount. And it also has this little piece right here that you can use to sight in the turret. So basically adjust your turrets with these two little tips right there. So you do have a backup to the cap, which has the tool built in, but still, you do not want to lose those caps. Now, since we're talking about the turrets, and like I said before, there's material built up, so if you happen to slam this against anything or drop it, the turrets are not going to get destroyed. The turrets are also very, very low profile. I'll take the cap off so you guys can see it a little bit better up close here. But the turrets are very low profile, and they are 1/3 MOA adjustments. So here's a look at the turret right here. I'll try and roll in some better footage so you guys can see it up close. So basically what you would do is you take the cap, and the cap actually has the adjustment direction for, you know, up or left or right or whichever way you need to move it to make your adjustments. It has that on the cap. So as you place that on there as your tool to make your adjustment, you'll see which direction you're going to be moving it in. And then again, it's a very low profile turret. And these turrets, like I said, are 1/3 MOA adjustments. So it's very easy to adjust. Basically, I mean, it's not an exact 1/3. I think they say it's like 0.3 MOA of travel, so it's not an exact 1/3 MOA, but still, it's pretty good. So we have the cap turrets that are also protected. We have the 7075 aluminum body, and all of those extra things that are supposed to make it tough, but that's not it. There is another feature that I thought was pretty cool on this thing that also makes it a little bit tougher and a little bit more water resistant. So here's the thing, we have the optic right here. It comes with these flip up caps. These caps can be moved so that they flip to the side, they flip to the top, or if you want to, you can even remove the caps. The rear cap is clear, the front cap is just going to be a standard black cap. But if we flip this cap up in the front right here, and I know this is going to be difficult, if not impossible to see on camera, maybe I can get it right there with that reflection, but there is a second lens on the Comp M5. So if you guys have ever seen an Aimpoint T1 or T2, you know that the reflective glass, the part where the emitter actually shines the red dot onto that reflects to your eye, that emitter glass is actually right here in the very front. This one, the glass that reflects back to your eye, is going to be set back a little bit, and there's a secondary lens on the front right here. So this secondary lens does a couple things. It protects the main piece of glass. It also adds to the waterproof, or how waterproof this thing can actually be. So this thing's waterproof down to 150 feet, or submersible down to 150 feet. But another reason that they added this was for those guys that are, you know, maybe they're parachuting from an airplane and falling into water. This will help with that impact when they hit the water. So if for instance, let's say this lens cap is up right here and they were to hit the water, that impact could actually jostle that internal lens, causing it to come loose. But since they have this front lens on here to protect against impacts from water and other things, if something were to happen, it would really only affect this outer lens right here, but this lens is there simply to protect the main lens. So it's a little added layer of security that they've done here. So I think that's pretty cool. Nice lens, very clear. It doesn't seem to add to any type of distortion or anything else. It's still a perfectly crystal clear image through this optic. There's a small hint of green tint, not as bad as some of the older previous generations of Aimpoints that I've had that have a pretty good blue-green hue to them. This one is definitely much clearer than some of the older generation Aimpoint micro red dots. Okay, so now let's go and talk about another very important aspect, which is going to be price, because Aimpoint does have a lot of different optics in their red dot lineup that range anywhere from that $300 price point all the way up to some of the more premium optics like the Comp M5. Now, I do want to let you guys know that this optic was sent to the channel for me to test out and review by Optics Planet. I love doing reviews for Optics Planet because I'm not working with a manufacturer, I'm working with a retailer, and Optics Planet could care less what I say about this as long as I give it an honest review. As a matter of fact, they never ask me to say anything about anything that they send me, which is fantastic. To be honest with you, I'd never review anything from a company that asked me to say something nice for them anyway. I would just automatically delete that email. But with Optics Planet, I don't have to worry about that. I give you guys my honest opinion, so that's great. If you guys want a discount code on this or pretty much anything else over at Optics Planet, just head over to my website. My website is linked down below, and you'll find the discount codes that you can use for this, and like I said, just about anything else. Now, in Aimpoint's lineup, there's a lot of different types of red dots. Everything from the Aimpoint carbine optic to the Aimpoint Patrol to the T1, H1, H2, T2, Comp M4, Comp M5, and stuff like that, right? They range in price anywhere from that $300 price point all the way up to this one. Now, this one right here in its original configuration, which just, again, had that low mount on it, that standard low mount, that comes in at about $837 right now. Again, I have the discount code, but if you were to buy it without, they're about $837, so just over $800. Interestingly enough, the Aimpoint T2 with the same standard low mount on it is also coming in just over $800, so the price is almost identically comparable. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that Aimpoint has some of the best coatings that I've seen on the market. These are, you know, anti-scratch, anti-reflective coatings that allow for good light transmission while also allowing for a good return of that red dot. So you end up with pretty good brightness out of that thing. If you were to turn this thing all the way up to its brightest setting, it's almost too bright during the day. It gets that bright. It is super bright, but at the same time, it also has 3 different night vision settings. So if you're somebody who has night vision, or you want to put a night vision device behind this, or you have something that's head mounted, helmet mounted, and you want to be able to see through it, those 3 different night vision settings will allow you to get the right balance of dot through that night vision. If you end up with a little bit, you know, too bright, it's just going to bloom and it's not going to look right. But you're able to turn this thing down so low to the point where even a small amount of light could wash it out. Now, in all fairness, I will say that there's one particular thing that could be a downside to some people if you're looking at this versus other compacts like the H2 or the T2. This one is obviously going to be slightly larger, and it's going to be a little bit heavier as well, and that's just due to the fact that you have this battery compartment which kind of sticks out of the side right here. So if you look at it from this profile right here, you can see here's our battery compartment. This is the front of the optic. Let me switch this around to the back of the optic right here, but you do have this battery compartment that sticks out, you know, kind of up and to the right when you're looking at it from the back, and that could cause a little bit of obstruction depending on, you know, how you have this thing mounted. The further forward you have it mounted, the less that's going to be an issue, but the more back and the closer to your face you have it mounted, that's going to become more of an issue. So there's some people out there that like having the dial on the side and the slightly shorter, slightly smaller package than the Comp M5. That could be what makes the difference to you. So if you're somebody who doesn't want the battery compartment up here, or even some of the other models that might be down to the sides like this, you just want that simple rotary dial and, you know, a more small, compact, lighter weight package, then you know, the H2, the T2, or something like that might be a little bit better for you. So I will say that when it comes to the, you know, the size and the compactness of this, it's definitely not as compact as some of the other small models of red dots that are out there. Now, this does have a standard 2 MOA dot in it, so that's going to be pretty much the same across the board and what you're going to find in those other comparable optics from Aimpoint. So nice 2 MOA dot. It's nice, it's crisp, it's clear. If you're somebody like me that has an astigmatism, you might see a little bit of flare, but it's really not too bad with Aimpoints. When it comes to red dots, Aimpoints, Holosuns are pretty good, and then also Swamp Fox optics are really good when it comes to astigmatism and trying to see, you know, a nice crisp red dot. I have contacts that help me correct my astigmatism, so I do see the red dot a little bit clearer than I used to when I didn't have that astigmatism correction, but still I do see some flare, so there's a little bit of that. If you get this optic and you see a little bit of a flare on that red dot, you might just want to just make a visit to your eye doctor and see if you have an astigmatism. It's not that big of a deal, and it's really not going to affect your aim. So that's the Aimpoint Comp M5. I'm sorry that I don't have the T2 to do an actual side-by-side comparison. I sold that a while back to help me afford to get something new to review. I do that a lot of times. I'll get something, I'll use it for a while, review it, and then I'll get rid of it to buy something else to review. And so I don't have that for my side-by-side, but I do have a lot of experience with the T2s, the T1s, and also the H series. So they are fantastic sights, every single one of them, but the Comp M5 to me is just going to be the toughest, most durable, compact Aimpoint red dot that you can buy. Anyway, I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.